There was a name that never fit the system, a sound that didn't settle in the air. They tried to place it neatly in a column, but something restless never stayed there. The streets kept echoing the same instructions. Follow the path, the numbers define every direction, traced with expectation. Every horizon reduced to a line. Still something deeper kept resisting, a quiet friction under the skin, a movement hidden in the breathing that refused to settle in. Darian, a name without a pattern, a word the structure couldn't frame. Darian, a pulse outside the measure, a step beyond the game. But every rule they thought was permanent was written far away from beating hearts. I watched the sequence start to fracture, tiny shifts inside the frame. The moment something living rises, nothing ever stays the same. Darian, a signal through the silence, a break inside the perfect chain. Never knows it's there. Every step outside the border carves another unseen bend. Every quiet act of movement brings the pattern to its end. Darian, a name the system misses, a rhythm drifting past control. So let the order keep repeating, let the column stand in place. The moment something real begins moving, they slowly lose the race. Darian's a name without a number, a word the system couldn't claim. Darian, a living contradiction that never the game. They built their world on polished assumptions, smooth surfaces hiding every crack, every answer card from distance, a theory no one questioned back. Clean equations drawn in silence, every motion neatly aligned, but something breathing under pressure never followed the design. The structure looked almost perfect, balanced on invisible lines. Still something subtle in the tension was shifting deep inside. Ivory Theory, a tower built from distance, a truth they never tried to test. Ivory Theory, a surface without friction, a rule that never faced the rest. They watched the world from higher ground, from windows far above the noise, where every outcome looked predictable, where every doubt dissolved to poise. But ground moves differently than distance. Every step carries a cost. Every moment filled with friction. Every certainty gets lost. Ivory Theory, the promise of precision, a map that never touched the land. Ivory Theory, a vision drawn in silence, silence on distance, a calm that never knew the strain. Ivory Theory, a fragile architecture that shivers under human weight. And when the ground begins to answer, when motion shakes the careful walls, every rule that felt eternal starts to tremble as it falls. Ivory Theory, a surface made of certainty, a silence carved from stone. Ivory Theory, a structure built from distance that never stood alone. There was a space where the numbers stopped breathing, a blanket treat every mark they made. They built their order from endless counting, every motion already weighed. They taught me every path had a value, every step could be neatly defined. But something raw under my breathing never moved with the lines. The city kept carving of patterns, grids lay deep in the stone, every answer stamped with precision, yet none of them felt like home. So I walked where the measures ended, past every limit they drew. The silence after the counting was louder than anything true. No number can map where I'm going, no frame can hold what I am. Every rule they sharpened around me bends when the pressure expands. I saw the edges begin to fracture, tidy breaks in the perfect design, the system breathing in repetition, never prepared for a spine. They try to anchor the motion with language, names hovered flat into place, but movement never obeyed their logic, and that is the moment they chase. You can measure the sky with your formulas, pin the horizon with code, still something alive in the distance refuses the weight of the law. No number can map where I'm going, no frame can hold what I am. Every rule they sharpened around me bends when the pressure expands. There was a sound before every answer, a pulse beneath every line. The moment the counting collapsed, the river returned to the spine. No number, no order, no pattern left to defend, just motion unwritten again and again and again. Every system eventually fractures, every measure erodes in the end. What they built to contain the horizon turns into dust in the wind. No number can map where I'm going, no frame can hold what I am. Every rule they sharpened around me bends when the pressure expands. So write every name on the ledger, stack every value you know. The moment the ground starts shifting, your columns will lose their flow. No number remains in the silence, no measure survives the tide. Only the stop after breaking, only the motion inside. The rule was written long before we noticed, a line beneath the skin of every sound. They said the structure never bends or trembles, that every force must circle back around. But something under pressure keeps evolving, a restless motion buried in the code, a fracture hidden deep inside the lie. They wrote the rule across the sky in silence, invisible but heavy as a wall. 1,000 minds repeating what was given until the meaning barely moved at all. But every step I took outside the pattern shifted something deep inside the ground. A quiet tilt beneath the perfect balance, a place where new directions could be found. The air was thick with measured expectations, every outcome sealed before it starts. Still something burning underneath the surface was building pressure in the hidden parts. Axiom, the rule they never questioned, a shape they thought could hold forever. Axiom, but every moving body turns the certainty to weather. The moment something living starts resisting, the clean equation slowly breaks apart. A fracture growing somewhere in the center, a pulse returning to the human heart. You cannot freeze the current of a moment, you cannot cage the rhythm of a will. Every structure built to last forever eventually learns how to stand still. And stillness is the birthplace of the rupture, the quiet place where motion gathers breath. The second every system stops evolving, it starts rehearsing its own death. Axiom, a law inside the silence, a pattern etched into the frame. Axiom, but living things refuse to ever play the perfect game. So let the order tremble in the distance, let the structure feel the subtle bend. The truth inside a breathing world is simple. Every rule will break before the end. Every rule will break before the end. Axiom, not carved inside the granite, not fixed beyond the reach of time. Axiom, a living pulse of motion, rewriting every rigid line. The city writes its arguments in concrete, every street a line of proof, signals blinking like small conclusions under a restless roof. Windows carry quiet equations, reflections folding into glass. Every movement leaves a statement about the moments as they pass. But the rhythm never settles, engines hum beneath the tilts the balance of the street. Every choice inside the current turns the pattern incomplete. Urban thesis, a proof beneath the skyline, a thought written across the ground. Urban thesis, a theory born in motion, where every step becomes a sound. And when the night rewrites the colors and the quiet grows between, every surface keeps remembering every place the pulse has been. Urban thesis, a living architecture, a rhythm carved in steel and stone. Urban thesis, a thought that keeps evolving, where nothing stands alone. There was a quiet edge in every answer, a line too thin for anyone to see. Every rule carried a shadow, every verdict carried a fee. Cold decisions carved in order, every motion weighed and sealed. But somewhere underneath the structure, something softer stayed concealed. The world keeps grinding through its rhythm, steel against a restless ground. Still a breath inside the pressure, refuses to be pinned down. Silver mercy, a fracture in the distance, a pause before the pressure grows. Silver mercy, a moment in the system where something human slowly shows. The structure thrives on calculation, and every action traced in code. But something living in the silence breaks the balance of the load. Every system draws its borders, every order builds its frame. Still something deeper under motion will never play the same. Silver mercy, a glimmer in the tension, a breath against the rigid line. Silver mercy, a pulse inside the current that turns the pattern out of time. You can sharpen every verdict, you can weigh the cost of breath, but every moment full of motion walks the narrow edge of depth. Because the world is never simple, every choice bends space and air. Every structure made of certainty finds its weakness waiting there. Silver mercy, a pause beneath the thunder, a space between the strike and fall. Silver mercy, a quiet interruption that breaks the logic of it all. And when the pressure climbs its highest, when the edges start to bend, something softer in the silence begins to turn again. Silver mercy, a fracture in the order. was a moment before every beginning, a quiet shift beneath the skin of time. Nothing announced it with thunder or warning, just a subtle change in the line. Every wall was built to last, but every structure hides a weakness, a place where pressure gathers fast. I watch the surface start to tremble, invisible shifts beneath the stone. Every force that looked eternal was weaker than it had been shown. The first spark doesn't shout its presence, it grows inside the quiet ground. A subtle turn beneath the balance before the rupture can be found. The first, a movement in the distance, a pulse the system never sees. A pulse the system never sees. The first, a breath against the current, a shift beneath the geometry. You can draw the lines forever, you can measure every frame, still something living under pressure will never play the perfect game. Every system reaches tension, every order starts to strain. The moment motion finds its center, nothing returns the same. The first, a signal through the silence, a break beneath the steady skin. A break beneath the steady skin. The first, the instant something living begins where nothing has been. It starts with something barely visible, a tilt inside the axis line, a quiet act of disobedience, a change too small to define. But pressure gathers in the background, every second feeding flame, until the stillness cracks wide open and nothing stands the same. The first, the moment structure fractures, the breath before the storm begins. The first, the step that turns the future from somewhere deep within, somewhere deep within. So every system waits in silence, every order holds its breath, because the first step into motion is the birthplace of the next. The first, not written in the ledger, not carved into the frame, not carved into the frame. The first, a living pulse of movement that never stays the same. There was a promise never written, not carved in stone or bound by law. Something older than their language, something raw beneath it all. They built their order out of caution, every step rehearsed and planned. But somewhere under quiet instincts, something refused the hand. The air was thick with expectations, rules like fences in the ground. Still a pulse beneath the breathing moved without a sound. Feral oath, a vow beneath the surface, a promise no one ever made. every war was built to last. But every rule that cages motion starts to lapse in when it's last. The moment instinct starts awakening, every structure feels the strain, because the pulse beneath the surface never follows careful chains. Parallel, a force beneath the silence, a breath beneath the rigid frame. Parallel, a promise born in motion, a step that never stays the same. You can measure every action, you can trace the perfect line, still something ancient in the body moves beyond the grand design. Every system loves obedience, every order loves control, but something living in the tension always slips beyond the role. Farewell, a vow inside the bloodstream, emotion written